So why is this context so important? The world is always changing. And try not to have a static plan. Have a static goal, I want to achieve X, but have a very dynamic plan on how to get there. And the most important things are flexibility, and I think of them, probably the two most important are kind of the mental flexibility, commitment to learning, and always being fresh at what's going on. And right behind it, financial flexibility. Don't strap yourself down. Try not to load up. Yeah, it's all the things your parents say. They're right. Don't load yourself up with debt. Set a plan in life. And I can tell you from my shoes, being 40, I feel very free and flexible, and this allows you to be this entrepreneur that I was talking about. Don't have any non-mortgage debt by the age of 30. You got to pay for school, so you're going to have some, but try and get out of it immediately. Drive your car for an extra 2, 3, 4 years just to make sure you get your stuff paid off. And if you buy a house, try and have it paid off by 40. Don't fall into the traditional trap of lining your garage with 2, 3, 4 cars, having a house bigger than you can afford. Have your focus to get yourself debt free. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to live your dreams, if you want the flexibility to tell your boss if you're working for someone anywhere along the way, have a nice day. The only way you can do that is if you save money and you give yourself that flexibility. Relationship flexibility is important too. I won't spend too much time on it, but who you know is important. Broadening your network, meeting new people is very important. And the bottom line is, if you approach life or business, I'll talk a little bit about why businesses fail in a little bit, with a static plan, then you're going to underperform. You can't possibly, if anyone in here has something in their bag that says, here's what I'm going to do for the next 30 years, I'll tell you it's not going to happen. Why? Because I did that. I thought, hey, if I just lay it out, if I make a plan, this is the way it's going to be. And back when I was 17, I was pretty sure I was going to be the CEO of General Motors. Still have the email, gmceo@aol.com, which was pretty bold back in the day. But I laid out a 35-year plan of how I was going to become the CEO of General Motors. Thank God it didn't happen. I'd be running a bankrupt company right now, and that just wouldn't have been what my dream was. But it's important to have a plan, to have a goal, and to be flexible and allow it to change as time goes on. So back to the beginning, senior year at Brother Rice, what did I want to do when I was older? I knew I liked art, physics, sciences, whatnot. I defined early on that my passion in life was solving problems. It goes back to 1981 when I was 12 years old, solving a Rubik's Cube. You guys may or may not know what that is. 1986, Rubik came out with a new puzzle, and Brother Hayes was here and challenged the class to solve it. And it was an extremely difficult puzzle that I, after 2 days, solved and brought in. I was so proud. And what I found out early on is I loved to solve problems, whether they're math problems, whether they were problems with relationships or whatnot. Throughout life, that's been my common theme. And so I had to try and figure out whether or not I wanted to go down, a path of being an artist, an architect, things that yielded to my creative side, or whether I wanted to go down a path of engineering, which kind of yielded to my technical side. I sent out applications to many colleges: Michigan, Michigan State, United States Naval Academy, GMI, or Kettering, as it's now known, and the College for Creative Studies. And it was a difficult decision for me. Did I want to go down what felt like my passion at the time, which was being an artist, or did I want to kind of expand my road of opportunities down the pike with engineering? And I guess the choice ultimately became fairly easy for me. I did choose engineering because it was probably more flexible, likely led to a life where I'd make a little bit more money, so that did come into play. Where I went to college was a difficult decision. I had the opportunity to go to some of the big schools here in Michigan, but I chose GMI because it had a co-op program. It allowed me to work very quickly. In fact, I started working for General Motors at 17 years old when I walked off the stage at Brother Rice in '87. In June, by July 7th, I was hired by GM, and I was an engineer. I was getting paid prior to even getting into college by a large corporation. So that was very enticing, and I went down that path. But at the time, I wasn't really exactly sure what I wanted to do next. I did know I wanted to be happy. I didn't know I wanted to make money. So those are important drivers. Kind of down here in the box is how did it evolve for me over the next 20 years? The career that I thought I was going to have, as I was talking about careers being defined back in the day of 30-year careers, didn't turn out that way. I'm much better for it, and I'm happy that it ended up that way. I started off my career doing my passion. I was in engineering. I was an inventor. I have U.S. patents and trade secrets. I loved it. I was solving many production problems, design issues at GM, and just having a great time with it. But that was going to limit me somewhat in my career, so I decided, I need to learn more about business. Back to this continuous learning concept. So I went into corporate finance next, but how do you get there? You're an engineer, how do you get there? I needed a business degree. GM had something called the fellowship program where they would pay for it, which is cool, right? Don't you want to be financially flexible? Have someone else pay for your school. They were not offering business school scholarships at the time, so what I did was I took an engineering master's program from Kettering, got my engineering master's, and then went back to the business leadership at GM and said, I still want my business degree. I already got the master's in engineering, so I can't get that paid for free. So is there a way that you can now sponsor me for business? Ultimately, it worked out. As a side note, my wife also got that. She wasn't my wife at the time. Also got that. She went to MIT. I went to Harvard. Full ride by General Motors. We got married the same year. We went out to Boston. It was fantastic. 2 years later, 2 great degrees, paid for, and then I was on to my next step, corporate finance, and I worked in Manhattan for 2 years, helping General Motors do a lot of extremely cool things, working with multi-billion-dollar equity deals, debt deals, business restructurings. That's where I first learned about business restructuring, mergers and acquisitions, capital markets. Fantastic things I would have never thought would have happened in the past. You move that forward and you start to see in the career the desire to do something on my own kind of started popping up, and that's where I figured I may need to diverge from my plan as CEO of General Motors, and ultimately I started finding new things to do, thinking about new concepts, and that's when I decided to jump ship. It was a big decision at the time. I went to be an entrepreneur. It was at the top of the dot-com era. I had a concept that I wanted to develop, and I decided to leave. And then the market crashed. Couldn't get financing for my idea. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to go back to General Motors. Well, maybe I shouldn't. That's when I went into business consulting. And if I roll the tape forward, 8 years later, I'm running my own company, doing business consulting and turnaround consulting. Let's speak very briefly why businesses fail. Businesses fail because of the lack of purpose, the lack of focus, the lack of communication and leadership. More prevalent than anything else is leadership not providing to the people who are working for the company a clear vision, a clear mission and purpose, and driving people to a successful outcome. And paired with that is the failure to manage the cash. Now, if you think about what I was saying earlier about how do you make a successful career or a successful life, have a sense of purpose, have a plan, remain financially flexible, and you'll avoid failure. This is exactly why businesses fail. This is exactly why I make a living today helping dozens of companies get out of the muck. It is simply trying to define who you are, what you're supposed to be, career or business, what your plan is, how you communicate that, and then making sure you're managing your cash so that you can stay flexible